Hey guys, it is Monday night and that means it's time for Let's Talk About. But before I start, I want to talk about an ingredient, magical ingredient that we're going to talk about in a moment, which, well, let me just tell you some of the things that it can do, right? I've watched it turn weak, bumbling people into absolute heroes. I've watched it turn failing, disastrous situations into success. I've watched it put the light back in people's eyes who are just feeling so down and discouraged. Any ideas what it could be?
No.
No idea.
Is it hope?
Well, yeah, and without it, man, everything gets worse if you don't have hope. So today we are talking about the oil blend Hope, which is just a beautiful, beautiful blend which Gary Young created. But just think about that for a moment. You know, without hope, life just gets pretty crappy. And especially if you're in a difficult situation, when you lose hope, all hell breaks loose. But when you have hope, you can pretty much survive anything, I reckon, in all seriousness. You know, you might be lost in the desert, you might be trapped in the mountains, but if you got hope, that's what keeps you going, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's been part of the problem in the last few years is that without that, so much uncertainty out there and we don't know what's going to happen, it's hard to have hope that things are going to be any different. So this is a great oil to support you emotionally when you feel like you have no hope.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I love about
Tell us the story.
Yeah, is actually the story behind how Gary Young created this essential oil blend. So, like a lot of the Young Living essential oil blends, there's a story behind it. He didn't, he makes things for a person and not for profit. And this was created...
Put it this way, he wasn't just going through the alphabet going, okay, H-E-H-I-H-O, hope, let's make hope, yeah.
So he actually created this in 1989 before sort of, like Valor, some of the essential oil blends were created before Young Living actually started. And this was one of them. So he was actually teaching a class, a sort of feedback type class in Arkansas, and two daughters brought their mum along to see him because they were hoping that he might be able to help their mum. So the story behind their mum was that she had originally been diagnosed with leukemia, and they began treatment straight away because they said that, it was bad. And when she actually had the treatment, she had such a bad reaction that they tested her again and realized that she didn't in fact have leukemia, that instead she had some weird virus that was going around at the time. And then they started her on all kinds of treatment and couldn't find, how to help her with that particular thing. And she lost hope, okay? So these daughters packed her in the van and drove her to see Gary, and he was dumbfounded. He was like, I don't know how to help her. But he said, look, I'll go away and do some research and I'll come back in a week, because he was back, it was a weekend type workshop. So he was there one weekend in Arkansas and there the next weekend. So he drove back to Reno, which is actually where the Young Living warehouse and office was at the time. And on his way back, he stayed at a motel. And he was asleep and had a dream. And in that dream, a lady came to him dressed all in white. And Jeremy told me, that's an angel. I didn't really think about that being an angel. I just thought it was a lady dressed in white. Anyway, Gary wanted to know who she was, and he asked her, who are you? What's your name? And in the dream, she said, my name is Melissa. And Gary woke up in an absolute panic going, oh my gosh, my niece, because his sister has a daughter called Melissa, something's happened to her. That's what the dream's all about. So he rang up his sister and was like, you've got to go and wake her up.
At 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, you've got to go and wake her up. You've got to wake Melissa up. Something's wrong. I just know it. I can feel it. Like I had this dream, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, his sister goes and wakes her up and, says, well, doesn't actually wake her up. It says, Gary, she's like, she goes and checks on her.
She's fine.
Anyway, so he goes back to the office the next day and opens up, the cabinet, and sure enough, here's a bottle of Melissa oil. And it's only a tiny bottle. He'd been given it from his friend in France, and he started researching the properties of Melissa. So I encourage you to do that. Go and have a look at some of the constituents in Melissa and what it is for, okay? Look up PubMed or do Google search on Melissa, the benefits of Melissa essential oil. And anyway, he contacted his friend in France, not Paris, but in France, who'd given him the oil and asked for him to ship over a quart, which I'm assuming is like a big amount.
A quart is 2 pints.
2 pints. Yeah, but how much in Australia? Like 2 pints of beer.
1.2 litres.
1.2 litres, okay. Anyway, his friend said to Gary, it'd be cheaper for you to buy a plane. And anyway, so because Melissa oil is really expensive, it actually takes like 5 tons of Melissa leaves to make 8 ounces, 8 times 30, 240 mils, right? So it takes a lot of plant material to make a tiny, tiny little bit. That's why Melissa oil is so expensive, because the leaves of the plant don't get released. So it's lemon balm is its common name that it's known by. Anyway, so back to the story. So Gary decides that the angel was telling him that what he needed to do was to use Melissa with this lady. So when the following week comes around and the girls bring back their mother, and she's gone from even worse to worse during the week.
She's on oxygen by the stage.
She'd lost all hope, right? Because every time she went to the doctors, they were like, yeah, try this and try that. And she'd lost hope. And so Gary told the girls to use 2 drops of Melissa on their mum every hour. Anyway, 6 hours later, so towards the end of the workshop, the mother actually walks in from sitting outside in the van, because the girls were doing the training, and walks in and is a totally different person. She had got back her hope. And so Gary and that was exactly what she said. She said, Dr. Young, you have given me back my hope. And so, because Gary was a naturopath, so, they called him Dr. Young. And anyway, so that's kind of why he decided to put Melissa in it. So it's also got 3 other oils in Hope. It's got the Melissa, it's got Spruce, Northern Lights Black Spruce. It's got Juniper and it's got Myrrh. And all 3 of those oils are really high in sesquiterpenes. So it's really good to use on your crown chakra, anywhere near the brain. Now, even though you can diffuse Hope or you can use it in a roller, the best way that Gary found to use Hope was actually on the auricular points, which are on the rim around the edge of your ear. So if you get the Hope on your finger and you run it around the edge of your ear, that's actually the best way to use the Hope essential oil blend. And I'm
feeling more hopeful already.
As we said before, this is a great oil for those days when you're feeling discouraged or lost, or you feel like you've got no hope. Yeah. Get out this essential oil, diffuse it, use it on your ears. If all this oil does is put the intention into your brain of having hope, use it with affirmations, change your thoughts, your beliefs change your thoughts change your words change your actions and your habits. So get into the habit of using Hope essential oil every day, and I can guarantee that you will have more hope.
Absolutely. It's not a magic thing, is it?
No.
But I guess what I get out of all of this stuff is that as human beings, we're complicated things, where there's a spiritual part of us, there's an emotional part, there's a physical part, and those 3 things are actually connected up. And I think what I love about oils, and particularly the blends that Gary created, is that they really talk to all 3 of those parts of us and can even help kind of bring those things together. So whatever's causing you lack of hope, or in a lack of hope in someone that you care about, here is certainly one tool that you can use to help to bring that back and to help them move into a place of hope and positivity. So yeah, there's my little plug. I'm a big believer in this stuff. And as always, if things are really bad, see your doctor or a counsellor. Yep. So, all right, that's it. And we will see you next week for humility. Do you have any humility? I probably need to use humility. Yeah. You're just a humble woman, aren't you? So we'll see you back here next week, guys. See ya. Take care.